Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Suburban Driving with Miranda. This week I have the all-new 2020 Land Rover Defender 110. Yes, I'm going to put it through its paces as it should be here at the farm. Let's check it out. I am so extremely excited to drive this thing. Anyone who knows me knows that from the moment this was first teased a couple of years ago, I was just beside myself, could not wait to drive it. I absolutely love the old Defenders. You know, this thing has been around for 67 years in Europe. Our generation was a little bit less old here in North America. We had a run from about 1983, and then 2016 was the last Defender that we saw here in NA. And then it kind of disappeared from the roster. We still had the LR4, also known as the Discovery, over there, until they redid everything, and now they have Discovery Sport, and they have brought back the Defender name along with 90 and 110. So way back when the Defenders first came out, in the 40s, I believe, late 40s, early 50s, 90 and 110 were the Land Rover 90 or the Land Rover 110, and that signified its wheelbase. So the 90 was the two-door, the shorter wheelbase, which is actually a little bit more than 90 inches, I believe. It was 92.9, and the 110 was the four-door. And then they came out with a 130, I think a 120, and that had a bit of a longer bed, almost like a truck in the back. We don't have those, nor did we. That was Euro, South African, over there, not here. So what they've done is not only have they brought back the Defender name, because along with, you know, Discovery and Discovery Sport, they've also brought back this 90 and 110, and like it used to, it signifies if you have a two-door version or a four-door. So I'm currently in the Defender 110 SE. So I have four doors, and because this is the SE, I also have the 3-liter inline 6 engine, which produces 395 horsepower and 406 pound-foot of torque. So I have quite a bit of oomph. I can get up and go. I have sport mode as well if I want to. But going fast in this car isn't what makes the Defender so much fun and so enjoyable to be behind the wheel of. So I always kind of liken the Defender to a European version of the American Jeep Wrangler. So it's a little bit classier, a little bit plushier, definitely more expensive. So to give you a few more figures, this specific model starts around $76,000. I have about $14,000 worth of options on this thing. So yes, my option list is the price of a small Econobox car, bringing my total to around 92 grand for this particular Defender that's here. So I have the Explore package on here. I've got the extra gear exterior carrier. I've got all the bells and whistles inside, the screens, the dual toned fabric. I've got the weighting. There's like a snorkel on the car. It's actually functional because this thing can wade an insane amount. It actually has a higher ride height than the Wrangler. So for the price that it is, you're not just paying for this, plushy, unable to do anything vehicle that's going to only sit in a suburban driveway, which it sadly probably always will, but it has the capability to really take itself to some extreme places. So this thing has a higher off-road ride height as well as a higher wading height than the Jeep Wrangler. So while it might be close to, in some instances, double the price of a Wrangler, a lower end one that's highly capable. That's the thing with a Wrangler, you don't need to add all the extras. And truthfully with this, you don't either. I mean, I don't know that I would get the exterior carrier of the side. It seems a little bit distracting, plus I have the big roof racks and I've got the moon roof, and to me that just seems like a really bad accident waiting to happen. You know, you've got glass right under your roof racks. Like what happens if something falls through or you don't attach something correctly, or, you know, thinking about myself here, this is exactly what I would do. I mean, my camera fell forward while I was filming before and hit the glass, so really, who's to say my cargo won't do the same? So why am I driving this car kind of on a, it's not really a suburban street because I'm in the country, but on paved roads instead of trailing out in the woods. Well, I did trail out in the woods today, and while it wasn't as hardcore as some might have hoped for the Defender, it's kind of the best that I could do in the circumstances that I have. And honestly, had I brought any other vehicle down there, I probably would have gotten stuck. There were some big elephant step type ruts. It was really kind of slippery, icy. You know, I could feel the wheels giving out. The car was sliding occasionally when the road was off center. It had a really big middle hump, so I raised the ride height to its full, I believe it's 11.5 inches of ride height for the ground clearance, and it is 39.4 inches for its wading distance, which is crazy for water to go up the side. And it impressed me, as gentle as that off-roading was. I don't know that I would feel comfortable taking any other vehicle down there. Possibly the Wrangler that I had last week, but in that instance it would have been the rubber and the big beefy tires that made me feel the safest, not necessarily the electronic and technological capabilities of the car that I was driving. Now, downside to this particular vehicle, I've not driven this very much. I only picked it up a couple of days ago, and today was the most amount of driving that I have done, and the longest jaunts in it have been essentially highway driving. I'm on big open country roads. I am cruising at the same speed, and at the moment I am averaging 15.7 liters per 100 kilometers. That's a lot. You know, when I went from my Wrangler diesel last week when I was doing 10.1 and driving it a lot and driving it in the city, and I come into this thing that I can see the digital gauge for the gas like moving as I drive, it's a little bit shocking. But I mean, I guess if you have this car, you were going to expect that. You know, this is a boxy vehicle. I'm going to talk about the exterior design on this thing, which I absolutely love, by the way. It's boxy like the Wrangler. It's not super aerodynamic. It's not really flowing through the air as you're driving, so you're catching that wind, which is never good for fuel economy. And, you know, it has big wheels. It's heavy. This is a large vehicle, and actually it's pretty cool that you can put up to like 150 pounds of weight, pounds? A lot of weight on the roof rack up there. There's so many stats that come with this car. It essentially has its own mathematical book of equations and departure angles and arrival angles and towing capabilities, and, you know, how much will fit on the top versus how much can go in the back. And it's so very technical. And I really like that about this car too. You know, they have managed to stay true to a Land Rover heritage while simultaneously bringing this vehicle into the modern world. They kept enough of the historical feeling without keeping any of the technology nor the platform. You know, this is a monocoque aluminum body now. It's no longer a body on frame truck type feel. So it's more comfortable, it's smoother, and yet it hasn't lost its capability, which is everything to a Land Rover, especially a Defender. You know, there's a reason that the Queen drives these. These are her favorite vehicles. And in all honesty, all Jaguar Land Rover vehicles have 3 royal warrants on them. So her Royal Majesty the Queen, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, and His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales all have their stamp of approval on every single car that comes out from Jaguar and Land Rover. Take a look at this thing. You know, I was pretty worried, I'm going to tell the truth, when Land Rover first announced that they were bringing back the Defender. After seeing kind of what they did with the Discovery coming off the LR4 body type, you know, they took away the squareness, they're making their cars kind of rounded and soft and just not this boxy, aggressive, go-anywhere tank that it was in the past, and I was afraid they were going to do the same thing with the new Defender. So imagine my surprise when a couple of years ago they teased the shape of this thing and I saw a box, and I was so happy. And that sounds strange to say, but there's something about these vehicles that when you add that boxy shape, you know, like a G-Wagon, you know, that box shape just exudes this I can do anything, I can go anywhere personality, which is exactly what the Defender needs and has. Now let's talk about this green for a second. I know you all know that I absolutely loved the Tundra a couple of weeks ago, and this is in that same family of green. It's that mossy, really kind of subtle, I don't know, nature-esque green color. It's actually called Pigeon green, and it is about $900 for this color. Any of the colors are actually extra with the Defender, but it is well worth it in my opinion. Of course, this has the exterior gear box, so that means that you can store your tools and such in there, and if you are off-roading or waiting and you can't open your doors and you need to get to something, then you open up that box that is watertight actually. And then, of course, it can also be accessorized with a ladder on the opposite side to get up to your roof rack easily, but this one doesn't have that. You've got the extra wheel in the back, which is nicely covered and detailed with the Defender name across the back. Really strong statement there. And then the front end, you have this, again, modern look. You've got your LED lights, and the lights in the back are very different for Land Rover. This has its own unique personality and its own unique character that makes the Defender stand out in all the right ways. It gets a lot of looks on the road. It has a huge presence wherever it goes. And while it seems like a very large car as you're driving it, you park next to any standard SUV or even a pickup, and you realize oh, hold on, this is actually a rather compact SUV in that it's not hugely wide, which means, it's easy to drive it in the city. And if you do decide to go off-road with it and, squeeze it into some tight spots within trees or rocks, you're not going to feel overly large. You don't have huge wheel fenders. There aren't side steps. There's nothing sticking out, nothing in the way, nothing that's going to get caught. I mean, gearbox aside. But no, just this thing is absolutely perfect from nose to tail. Land Rover designers did an incredible job with this Defender. They have brought it into modern times without taking away that heritage look. Welcome to inside the 2020 Land Rover Defender 110 SE. I gotta say, when I first got in here, I was kind of put off when I quickly moved it from when it was delivered to me into my parking garage in the back garage. That's a lie. I have a parking lot. I wish I had a garage. When I moved it into the back lot, my immediate reaction was, oh my God, it should be plushier in here. It should feel a little bit more upscale. You've got these exposed rivets on the doors here, and everything just seemed kind of cheap to me. And, I parked it and thought about it and went upstairs. And then the next time I drove it, I got in and realized that, hold on, no, it's not cheap. It's done on purpose to look rugged. This is actually soft touch material all through here. This is all padded. You've got some great handles here for the passenger. So much storage in the middle here. I love the center stack. I have a huge drop down here for easily accessible everything. The armrest as well is rather large, and it is also a cooler if you'd like. So you can store your cool beverages or snacks in there for all of your off-roading needs. There's also a charge pad down here. The steering wheel I absolutely love. It's so rugged, and it has this what almost feels like ceramic or cement here in the grayed out portion. The steering wheel mounted buttons are fairly easy to use. They're pretty cool. They change up, the lighting inside changes depending on what you're doing with the menu, so it's kind of interesting. And then of course you got the full digital gauge cluster. I've got my touch screen here. There is no knob to access this screen here, so it becomes a little bit fiddly, especially let's say if you were actually using this as it's intended. So you're off-roading, you might be wearing gloves, or you might be dirty, so touching all of this would be a little bit like you don't really want to. But I quite like their onboard system right now. Over the years, Land Rover and Jaguar has had some pretty, what's a good word? Unfortunate onboard systems, and it's not the first time that I've said it. However, this new version is quite good. It doesn't always pick up my iPhone. Apple CarPlay connects sometimes, doesn't connect other times. Meh, not the end of the world. But you have everything on the screen, from the dimensions of the car. You can put it in water wade mode. You can change up all kinds of stuff. There's camera angles for everything, front, back, side. So if you are in a situation where you really don't know the dimensions and you're afraid to hit something or don't know where you're going, you can help yourself with this onboard system. Down here I have the HVAC. It's a little bit hard to get used to. The buttons, you press them to activate different things, be it the fan or the heated and cooled seats, which are cool, by the way. So they're a combination of a leather and like a burlap material, and very like retro and off-roady. I like it a lot. It makes me think of like the safari tours, which I think is what they were going for. I love this khaki off beige greeny color. I think it works really well, especially with the light beige inserts and then the black as well. This is a nice place to be. I've got the huge moonroof above me that opens up almost all the way to the back. Of course, I have the roof rails on top, so it doesn't let as much light in, but it really makes the cabin really nice and airy, and a pleasant place to be. Seats are super comfortable, really can be adjusted a million different ways as per you would expect with a Land Rover. Plenty of room in the back, and also the rear, the trunk and the back seats are covered in a really hard plastic, so you can use your trunk and not worry about scratching fabric and or ruining, you know, that if you have a hard plastic back there in most SUVs, like on the sides, and you happen to scrape it with something, you're usually left with like a big scratch. This is really well covered and reinforced, so you can put plenty of stuff back there. I've got a fancy shelf over here like I have in or had in the Highlander, my favorite feature, and it even has its own personal little plug there. So your passenger has their own storage space that they can also use to plug the phone in. All in all, you know, it seems very simple. And I think that's also what I felt when I got in. I wanted it to almost be like overwhelmingly, you know, crazy tech or feeling very luxurious. And I got in and my first thought was like, oh, well, it's not much different from the Wrangler. And then I started to think about it, and it shouldn't be. So it's perfectly accessorized for what it is. But at the same time, it is just that little bit upscale, but it has these touches of ruggedness, like the exposed exterior color here on the door, plus the rivets and the hard plastic. And so it lends itself to feeling more rugged than its price tag would suggest. But I like it in here. I could definitely live with this. Well, it's a Defender, so of course I could live with it. But yeah, it's a good place to be. All right, guys, well, that's been it for me this week. Here it is, the Land Rover Defender 110 SE. I am very sad to give this back. Trust me, it is not going to be a fun day tomorrow, but I've had an amazing time with it. This is a highly capable off-road vehicle that's also pretty luxurious. And you know what? I bet we're going to see a lot of them in a lot of driveways. Sadly, they probably won't be used the way they're supposed to, but if they ever do want to use them and go into the woods or play in sand dunes or rock climb, this is the vehicle to do it. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to hit me up at Miss Miranda L on Twitter or Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook, Miranda Lightstone, or you can drop a comment below here on the Suburban On Air. Hope to see you guys next week. Thanks.